go right into budget. Need a roll call? Roll call.
Council Bergman.
Present.
Council Economo.
Here.
Council Gaffney.
Here.
Council Lukes. Council Palmieri. Council Rivera. Here. Council Rosen.
Here.
Council Rushton. Council Russell. Here. Council Toomey. And Mayor Petty.
Here. Okay, we'll hold off on the clerk's budget, and we'll go to the Worcester Public Schools. That's on page 187. Okay. Any questions? Concerns? Motion to approve. Councilor Gaffney?
Yes, quick question for the city manager. With regards to the school budget, I know there was a busing plan that was going to that allegedly might save some money. Do we have details on where we stand on the busing plan?
Mr. Allen?
I think the council, Mr. Chairman, I think the council might be referring to the audit that was done last year around school transportation. So I'd ask if Mr. Allen or
I just asked Mr.
So, in conjunction with both the city auditor and the city CFO, we contracted with an entity to look at both routing, a number of issues, and their essential conclusion was prior to us sending out the bid and award of the contract, their recommendation was that we were doing things essentially the way that we should be doing it, and there was no, they didn't identify any obvious areas of savings.
Mr. Foley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can
I just want to recognize that we have school committee
with 2
member
minutes, if I could.
Foley and school committee member Novick and Superintendent Melinda Boone and Brian Allen, the CFO of the school department, and Hilda Ramirez.
Our colleague Hilda Ramirez is here. Just if I can just take 3 minutes of council time, just to first to thank the mayor and the city council for this opportunity to make the public school presentation today. We felt that would be important for the Finance and Operations Committee, of which Ms. Novick, Ms. Ramirez, and I are members, be here as well to present and answer any questions, along with Dr. Boone and Mr. Allen. Also here is Melissa Brady from the CPAC, who's present today. I want to thank the mayor for his leadership for both bodies, really bringing together the school department, the school committee, as well as the city council. And your suggestion to have the Finance and Operations Committee meet with the Education Committee, the city council, has really borne fruit. We've been able to talk through a number of these issues around financing, public education, some of the bit arcane state regulations and rules, and I think we've reached some better understanding of where we are with our funding, and that's helped us quite a bit. But I also thank the mayor for his support with Nelson Place, a new school that's coming up, Nelson Place, and South High School is now in the pipeline as well. So we've seen some great support in public facilities as well. Also, the city manager, Mr. Gussis, thank you for building a very positive and supportive relationship with Dr. Boone and the public schools. We knew coming in, given your background as the youngest school committee member ever elected, but we knew your background in the schools would be a great foundation for working with us, and that's proven to be true. So thank you for that support. Just to let you know, the timeline, the budget's been prepared, and it's right here, but the school committee has not reviewed the budget yet in session. We've not approved the budget, and that is going to be happening June 4th and also June 18th. Also, the Joint Committee, Education and Finance and Operations from the Council and the School Committee, we're holding a public hearing tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the Durkin Administration Building to really go through the budget in greater detail. Mr. Allen's going to make a presentation. It's open to the public. We encourage the public to attend, to understand the budget better, and to ask some questions and make some suggestions, if they could, about what they would like to see in the budget as well. A real quick overview on the budget. It reflects a $14 million increase over last year's budget. That includes $2.6 million from the city, from the previous year, which we thank you for the additional support to the council and to the manager. It increases the city's required spending level for this year. It exceeds it by $300,000. But I want people to realize that it is still a cumulative negative balance of $2.3 million, that over time the city has underfunded the schools, so the state still counts this as being underfunding the school budgets. I also want to note and thank the manager for his willingness to work with us in reducing the indirect cost recovery from 3% to 2.5%, the amount that the city would take off some of the federal grants that we receive. This change is resulting in $165,000 going back into essential programs such as Head Start, IDEA, and Title I. So thank you to the manager for that as well and that support. Two quick comments, if I can, at the end, Mr. Mayor. To note that the Chapter 70 state support has increased this year by $10.9 million. And that's a significant increase, and that increase is reflective of the increase in enrollments that we've had the previous year, up around 600 students or so. But it's important to note that funding lags enrollment by a year, so that this funding is coming in for next year, but we had the increases as of October 1st, 2014. So it's a challenge for us as our numbers go up, but the funding lags by a year. But we're glad to see the funding coming in. Another important point is that most of these increases are with students who are English language learners, and it really reflects Worcester's long history of being a city of immigrants. Like most of our families came here as immigrants. But also, it also reflects the city's issues with poverty, as our numbers of children with special needs has increased as well. And these children with special needs and English language learners are more expensive to educate. So it does present an issue to us. And finally, probably the biggest issue in front of us collectively is the need to revamp the state's foundation formula budget. I think everyone across the state has recognized that the formula put into place in 1993 is no longer sufficient or accurate to reflect what's happening in our schools. The issue is, how do you fund that change in the formula? So right now, that's probably the greatest hope that we have in the schools across the state to find essential funding for the public schools. There's a Foundation Budget Review Commission right now that's in the middle of taking a hard look at this, and the mayor and Ms. Novick, Dr. Boone, and others have been testifying before this commission. But I would say to our council colleagues, the mayor, and school committee colleagues, it's probably the greatest opportunity that we have to get in there and make sure that the state recognizes the need to revamp that formula to bring essential dollars into the public schools to educate all of our children. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the council and the city manager for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Mr. Allen? Oh, transportation question. Superintendent Boone, you want to make a comment?
Through the chair, yes. Mr. Allen addressed the transportation question. He gave the response
Okay.
where we were with that. I join with Mr. Foley and Ms. Ramirez, Ms. O'Connell-Novick in thanking council and the mayor and the city manager for the developmental process of this particular budget. And we're pleased to be here tonight. I just want to again acknowledge the relationship and the working relationship with City Manager Augustus, and where we really get into the data conversations about what our needs are and how do we begin to get there. And so I want to thank him for the manner in which he approaches this developmental process and how we have gotten to this budget that's here. I just want to highlight a few additional pieces within the budget along with what Mr. Foley shared. The driver for our increases within the foundation budget is our enrollment increase, and that's significant. This budget continues to focus on the 7-point financial plan that the school committee adopted and drives new revenue primarily to the classroom level, to the instructional level, as well as seeks opportunities to find other grants and opportunities. And so this grant represents, this budget represents this. We're also pleased again to recognize that the Worcester Public Schools budget, and under the development leadership of Brian Allen, our Chief Financial and Operations Officer, has won for the second consecutive year the Meritorious Budget Award from the American School Budget Business Officials Organization. And I think that's significant about how we align our resources, our revenue, with the goals of improving student achievement and addressing student needs. This budget represents no reductions or programs or positions or loss of services to students. This budget represents additional teachers, 10 at the elementary level, keeping our class sizes roughly 22.5 in the aggregate, which is a reasonable class size. There would be no classrooms of 31 or more students. There will be 48 with 27 to 30 students, but again, we've taken care of those very large numbers that were 31 and above. We increased 11 teachers at the middle and high school level. One of the things that council has should have observed through our budget for the last several years is that we don't come to council with just asking for new money without making adjustments within our own practices. And we could have, through this budget, continue the restructuring of our special education services by bringing more of the support systems internal to the district rather than through third-party contracted work. And that this year in the end is saving us about $100,000 we were able to reinvest into the budget. We increased this budget by 11 special education positions, 14 English language learner positions, and 5 ESL tutor positions to provide necessary services to students with disabilities and our English language learners. We also increased 2 teachers to expand our dual language programs into the 5th grade at both Roosevelt Elementary and Chandler Magnet School, which Chandler is one of our innovation sites. There's an additional nurse, and in support of what's happening with the One City, One Library work at Burncoat Prep Elementary, that library funded by the district will become a full-time position. There are also 3 additional school adjustment counselors in the budget. And of particular note is how the district will use almost $426,000 in district operating and capital budget to be able to leverage $5.1 million in E-rate funding that, in addition to the normal telephone service, it will hopefully allow us to replace all the network switches at the schools. And this is the backbone of our infrastructure, and some of these switches are up to 15 years old. We will add wireless access points to every classroom and common area in the 27 schools that currently do not have modern switches. And then in FY17, going forward, we will also have replaced all the remaining schools and expanded their wireless access points. In addition, we will also specifically increase the internet connections district-wide for this work, and provide fiber connection to replace our Ethernet. The 2 school-based administrative positions are driven purely and solely by enrollment. There will be an additional non-teaching assistant principal at Quinsigamond Elementary School, and converts the lead teacher position at Claremont Academy to an assistant principal. Both of these schools have had enrollment increases, and Quinsigamond Elementary represents our largest elementary school with approximately 800 students enrolled. We continue to fully fund our athletics program, including the intramural sports that was initiated last year, with no fees or charges for students to participate in those. It reflects our continued investment in and focus on college and career readiness within our available resources. What this budget does not yet accomplish for us is additional teaching positions to allow us to reduce the number of students who have multiple study halls in their schedule. It does, and it also doesn't support further reducing class sizes at the elementary level. But again, I certainly want to thank City Manager Augustus and Mayor Petty and members of council, and specifically City Manager Augustus, for the spirit in which we enter into budget. And it's not a conversation that just happens this spring. We're talking budget year-round. So with that, Mayor Petty, we are ready.
Thank you. Councilor Rosen? Councilor Cornwall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the budget, since I served on the school committee in late 80s, early 90s with City Manager Ed Augustus at the time, budget book has come a long way, and really good to see. It's so informative now. So that certainly, I know you've had this, I think, for the last few years, but that is a great improvement over the times I was on the school committee. Through the chair to the superintendent of schools, as you know, we all in the city of Worcester, elected officials, appointed officials, parents of children, residents, business owners, everyone in Worcester is concerned, as they should be, with safety and security in our schools. And we're glad that people are concerned. You know, over the last maybe few months, there's been some discussions on what's the best way to make sure our students are healthy and safe and secure, and we certainly want that for all our students. And there's been some disagreements, but that's part of the process. Those disagreements will happen on any issue, and there's been I think some good, healthy discussions. So through the chair to the superintendent, do you feel the budget you'll be presenting to your school committee and that we have in front of us now has adequate funding and the means to keep the students in the Worcester Public Schools healthy, safe, and secure?
Through the chair, yes, I do. Now, what are the nuances within that we have to continue to address? As you're fully aware, in the press conference that the mayor called just a few weeks ago, we announced that the schools would be undergoing a safety and security audit. We're in the process now of developing the RFP for proposals for vendors, contractors who do that type of work. There are a number who are nationally recognized in school safety, and so we're putting together an RFP to address that. Certainly, following that audit and any necessary recommendations, we will be looking to those things that we may need to make adjustments in the future. And we'll be recognizing those practices that we need to continue. In addition, I think, again, with our work with the Worcester Police Department, the city manager, the mayor, and others, it has been clear that the incidents have been isolated and don't represent a pattern across all of our schools. That is not to diminish the seriousness and the concern that we have with those. And so we recognize that the teachers and the administration of Burncoat High School, as well as Worcester Technical High School, responded swiftly so that there were no incidents in either one of those situations. As we put together both a safety and security plan, a safety and security and climate and culture plan for North High School, we now see stabilization of efforts at that school and what's happening. As council is fully aware, we currently fully support, through the school's budget, 4 police liaisons to serve our schools. What has happened in concert and in support of of Chief Jim, those 4 liaisons are stationed full-time at the 4 comprehensive high schools and supported by an additional officer at a 5th high school, and that will continue through the end of this school year. We will then sit down and analyze and evaluate what went on with that, and will then pair that with other conversations with the police chief to determine what that structure will look like in the fall.
Through the chair to the superintendent of the schools, when do you feel that the report will be submitted to the school department, the safety audit?
Our goal is to have an audit report prior to the opening of school, but again, as we're developing the specifications for this RFP, we may find from the contractors who may be interested in responding to that our timeline may be a little too aggressive. And so it is our goal to have something by the opening of school, which would be early September.
And through the chair, when that report is finished, that will be made public to the entire city of Worcester?
Through the chair, absolutely. It will be a report to the school committee as a report of the superintendent.
And my final question, I've been reading a lot lately of chronic absenteeism in schools, all around the state, actually, different schools. And I'm not familiar with this at all lately since I've been off the school committee, but is absenteeism overall a problem in the Worcester Public Schools?
Dr. Bull?
Through the chair, yes, it is. And I think 3 years ago now, we were about to go into our 3rd year, we kicked off an attendance initiative known as Attendance Works. Attendance Matters. Attendance Matters. And our community partners have worked with us. To give you an example of some of the things we're focusing on, when we look at the data, we find a few students and few families at each school who have some chronic absenteeism issues. Some of those have been related to issues around asthma. We have a strong study and partnership with UMass Medical and UMass Memorial that is looking for where there's additional support for children who are asthmatics and support so that they are in school more than out of school. And so we work very specifically and very closely with families and children that have been identified that way. Additionally, we work in a project known as ESIP program that we have with the court system, where we can bring families in prior to doing a referral for court intervention on attendance to determine, sit down with the court players and other community organizations in the schools to see what are the stresses within a family that are leading to the absenteeism of the students, and then what are the supports that we can put in place to assist them. And so we are seeing it just at a standing committee meeting within the last couple of weeks. Some data have been presented in terms of our improvement overall with attendance. So that is making a difference for us.
That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, years ago we were able to put in the budget truant officers. I know we don't have that luxury any longer, but they really did their job getting kids back to school. So, maybe if we have more money in the future, it would be something to take a look at.
And through the chair, if we had more money, I would ask that we have more school adjustment counselors, because getting the students to school is one piece, but understanding what they need in order to stay in school is where we need the support. And so that's what we're working on and what we talked about when we presented before the Foundation Budget Review Commission.
Thank you.
Mr. Gaffney, Council Gaffney. You didn't finish up your first question. I should have gone back to you originally.
Thank you, sir. Through the chair to Mr. Allen, you had responded indicating there was no identification of savings in the audit. Is that what you're stating?
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, that is correct. The method of which we route buses and contract for buses, the vendor did not make any suggestion for change in those areas.
Well, I'm reading an article from August 2nd, 2014, written by Mr. Manfredo, indicating that there actually were major savings would come from eliminating busing for grades 7 to 12. So was there any potential for savings found?
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, once we contract for a bus, and that was one of the methods that the vendor looked at, we pay for that bus for the entire day. So what we try to do is utilize that bus as much as we can throughout the course of the day. Actually, we were noted within that report for using buses above, industry standard. We use buses up to 6 times per day, because if we're going to pay for them for the full day, we use them for the full day. And saying that, we also provide for secondary transportation, which is not required for under state law. But because of where our schools are located, it's a significant impact on attendance. I guess to go back to the previous question, providing students transportation. So the school committee made it clear during the process that there was no interest in reducing secondary transportation.
Mr. Gaffney? Councilor
Yes,
Gaffney?
to the chair again. So the school committee decided, but what did the audit indicate there was for potential savings, sir?
On the 7th through 12th?
Yes.
They did.
Well, actually, with regards to the audit, because Mr. Manfredo was indicating in his article that major savings would come from limiting the busing. My understanding from meeting with city managers is around $1 million. So I'm just trying to find out what the potential savings might have been.
To my recollection, I'll defer to the city auditor, the CFO. I don't believe that the vendor actually identified any savings within their review.
No, he's talking about, there's no savings in the budget, in the report itself?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, I think there's a reference to significant savings being made. The vendor that did the review did not identify a dollar amount.
Okay.
To the best of my recollection. I'll defer to Mr. Stearns and Mr. Zedelis, but that's my recollection of the review.
Dr. Boone?
And through the chair, while Mr. Manfredo's article references 7 through 12 savings, as Mr. Allen indicated, because the costs for the bus are the same, and that was a question that Councilor Lukes had last year, and I responded to, because the cost of the bus for a day is the same whether we just do mandated K-6 or whether we do K-12, it was to our benefit to utilize those same buses for 7-12 also.
Okay. Councilor Gaffney?
Through the chair, I'd like to know how much the potential savings are from that audit. From my understanding, what the city manager looked like about around $1 million when we met. Mr. Manfredo writes in an article that it was a major savings. So does somebody have a number? And what is a major savings otherwise? So I want a number.
So like on the 7 through 12, if we cut...
I don't. It's from the audit. I'm not. It indicates the major savings is from 7 to 12, but I'm assuming there are other savings as well found in the audit.
Let me say one thing.
Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, I will remind council that the audit report was fully vetted through the Joint Committee of Finance and Operations and Education.
Right. But do we have an idea what the...
Through the chair, and I don't want to throw out a number that isn't 100% accurate, but we have that report and we can send it off to council, and I do apologize, council, I probably should have brought the report up with us this evening, but we can furnish the report to council.
Okay. Get you a number maybe before the night's out.
Well, yes,
No.
thank you.
Okay. Councilor Carnival?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments. Having served now my 4th year, I just want to compliment the manager on his can-do attitude, and yourself, Mr. Mayor, for working in a more proactive approach with the school department and the school committee, because it benefits all of us on the city level as well, and Dr. Boone as well, and her staff. And I'd be remiss if I didn't come forward and say thank you for coming forward with $1 million more than what was required now in this budget. The $500,000 that was brought forward from free cash last fall, and even in the indirect cost recovery, chiseling that number down, which is a benefit. These are things we've been talking about for a number of years, and we're implementing those. It's not going to happen overnight. These are big dollar amounts we're talking about, but again, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for working in a positive manner towards our school system. And again, as school committee member Foley said, really the foundation formula needs to be looked at very closely, scrutinized, and changed to reflect the needs of our school systems throughout the entire state. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to say thank you. So, as a parent of children in the Worcester Public Schools, I've certainly have appreciated our school systems here in Worcester, and have done very well for my kids. And I was wanted to say thank you for the work. I wanted to just ask, I know a lot have been, as Councilor Rosen was talking about regarding some of the things, a lot have been talked about regarding school safety. And I think that part of what we really need to focus on is looking at things that actually have been proven to work, not just here, but in other locations and in other parts of the city and other parts of the country. And looking at what's called evidence-based models. One of those things, I definitely want to give kudos to Claremont, to the administration, to Dr. Boone and Mayor Petty, who had really great leadership, and the school committee regarding Claremont and how well it's doing. I think one of the things that is an asset at Claremont is a program called Ivy Child, which tomorrow invite people to come by. They will be having a presentation on that. So it's at Claremont Academy. And Ivy Child is kind of a marriage that took place, and it does a lot of work with mindfulness, but really helps kids who were struggling regarding making the right decisions and not making the right decisions, and were constantly probably in the office more than they needed to be. And very aggressive behavior, and some of the turnaround and some of the work that's happened. And so this, again, is some of the evidence-based models. And so looking at, in the budget, part of what we look at with this program specifically that I know about at Claremont is that most of the funding comes from outside sources. And so as we're looking at safety within our schools, that we look at what are the things that actually have worked and how much money are we really looking to invest in things like that. And when we look at apprenticeship programs, or even developing a stronger relationship with organization like the Chamber, as well as some of the unions, and being able to support apprenticeship. So I'd be interested to see what we're looking at as we move forward and how much money is going to be kind of getting allocated for some of this work that I feel is something that actually is something that has worked and functioning.
Through the chair, we have an increase in this budget in the safety line item with the goal of looking, as you described, evidence-based programs to support things like peer mediation, or whether it's the mindfulness work, any number of those opportunities. And we also have 3 additional school adjustment counselors in this budget with the focus of supporting individual student needs and school needs also. So we don't have a specific program or model that we're recommending with this budget, but we're recommending to school committee to approve the funding level for that, so that we can then bring in the appropriate programs to meet a school's need.
Through the chair, that's it was great to see that, and it's great to, as that gets kind of highlighted, because in a line item it doesn't really explain that, but that's through the chair, this is it's a very good news to think about, that we're actually thinking, and I wouldn't really say necessarily outside the box, because again, there are things that have been continuously done. I think the adjustment counselor is another thing. I was up at one of the high schools not too long ago, and it's just virtually so difficult and almost impossible to assist these kids through the college process, to get them into the college process. And getting adjustment counselors constantly up to date with things like, for example, DACA and things like that are so important for our kids that don't have, never mind getting through the whole financial aid and things like that, but if you can't even apply for financial aid, knowing through all the rules and regulations of DACA, which is a whole other story. And so, I know that, for example, a big shout out to Mr. Teresi at University Park, who takes on this with the kids at University Park and does an amazing job with that. And even though it's a small school, I see how taskful. I can only imagine South and North and Doherty and kind of what they go through. So that's exciting to hear that as well. I think my last question through the chair is looking at, will there be also support for increased support for things like AP classes and dual enrollment, and looking, are we able to form stronger partnerships? I know that up at, between Claremont and University Park, I know that it's really important, the partnership that they have with Clark University, for example, and even with Quinseg. So I'm wondering if there's potential to increase some of that partnership with some of the other schools and enhance some of that. As well as increase support for AP classes, because I think, for example, somewhere like South does an amazing job, but it takes a lot. What they do is they really invest so much with their AP, and I've noticed that other schools just don't have that level of resource. So I wanted to know how we're looking regarding any increased support for that.
Through the chair, actually, our resource allocation for advanced placement is one of the things we're very proud of. When I mentioned no reduction of services or programs to students, our AP program is very robust. Across the district, we offer 23 advanced placement courses at no cost or charge to the students. This year, we administered more advanced placement exams than the district ever has. And so that is a significant part of our strategic investment for our students, particularly those, as we've now moved into the Mass Core graduation requirements, the more rigorous graduation requirements that the state actually recommends. Our current sophomore students were the first ones to enter high school last year under the Mass Core requirements. And in 2017, they will graduate with those requirements, which includes at least 2 years of the same foreign language, as well as the other opportunities around advanced placement and those things. So we continue to support and expand our advanced placement offerings and enrollment. We actually had a couple of grants for this current school year that allowed us to put in Calculus BC, which is the more rigorous calculus class at 2 of our high schools, as well as an environmental AP course at Doherty. So we continue to make sure that those needs are robust. As far as the recognition, again, our schools that have been part of the Massachusetts Math Science Initiative, or MIMSI, we've seen really great progress in opening access to students in those advanced placement courses, as well as the number of students who are taking the exams and then the corresponding qualifying scores. Our dual enrollment. Our colleges are great partners. Let me be clear. I come before council and often hear and sometimes the idea that the colleges aren't supportive. They are very supportive as it comes to our dual enrollment opportunities, and we continue to look to expand those in a meaningful way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Rushton, followed by Councilor Lukes.
Thank you. It was interesting to hear some of the answers to some of the questions that were asked by the council. I think the mission statement, which is on page 42, which says the Worcester Public Schools provide learners with a quality education in a safe and healthy environment. We believe that all students can achieve at high levels as they prepare to become productive citizens in our changing technological world. I think the first line is really kind of sums up how I think the city feels right now and what they want. And they want a quality education in a safe and healthy environment. The confidence was lost for a vast, swath of this community during earlier part of this year that we could provide a quality education in a safe and healthy environment. I felt there was that gap in leadership at some points, but I feel stronger now that with the cooperation of many stakeholders that we are moving in a positive fashion, because perception is reality. Most of the members of the council have children right now in the public schools or have recently had children in the public schools or are a product of our public schools. And we have a strong belief in our schools, and we know what we can produce and what we have produced. But going forward, I think the biggest job of the school administration next year is to make the public across all sectors of this community believe that you can produce a quality education in a safe and healthy environment. And to get there, it's not going to be rhetoric. It's going to be things like Councilor Rivera talked about, be willing to look at other programs like mindfulness and other evidence-based ways. In addition is managing staff and understanding buildings, because the best schools in the city of Worcester or any city or town across this country is when it's manned by good people inside the school who know how to lead and build a culture within the school where people want to come to a safe and healthy environment. Some people do it better than others, but we all know that, through our life experiences, both as students ourselves and as parents, that there's times where you've been a part of a educational team that you have a lot more confidence in that team than in others. That being said, I do think in the past few months that there has been a significant step in restoring that public trust that I think we lost for a period of time. I personally can say nothing but great things about my experience with the Worcester Public Schools. At Tatnick, when you walk in every day, they talk about the 20 minutes of reading. And it's not just a slogan. They work it every day to get those children to believe and understand that reading is fundamental. And because of that, the scores will go up, their ability to communicate will increase, and they'll be much better citizens. And that's a building where I would put any child in this city on a daily basis. And Forest Grove has been an extraordinary education for my son this year alone. And I know Doherty High School and Burncoat and South and North, the people within those buildings want to achieve the same level of excellence. So whether we talk about level 1, 2, 3, 4, and all these labels, I think at the end of the day, what we as a council really, really are striving for is to make sure that we will do what we need to provide the necessary resources, both in personnel from the city side, whether it be some sort of law enforcement involvement, or just the city manager to help offer solutions to get to that level of that quality education in a safe and healthy environment. But I do commend, I don't want to take my earlier words to cloud what my overall belief is that we are going in a strong and positive direction because everybody is chipping in and everybody is striving to get that particular feeling back.
Okay, Councilor Hoops.
Mr. Chairman, just to extend some of the comments by my colleague in terms of the City Council's commitment to our educational department. On page 3, it states in our budget document that education aid has increased 30%, while support for city services has been reduced by 30% since fiscal 2008. So we have, in fact, reduced our own services on this side in order to deal with the needs of the school department. And when we go to, I'm trying to change this here, to page 188, there's a reference to specifically how the department's budget is developed. And by the way, I have to recall Councilor Rosen's comments about the budget document and how much more transparent it is now. That was not easy because I was the mayor when those changes were pursued, and not easily, I may add. And this superintendent did quite a bit to make sure we had a transparent document that made sense, that told everyone what was going on in the system and how much it cost. Now, the budget is two separate entities according to the backup, and those of us who have had to live with education funding have seen that there's educational expenses and non-educational expenses. And I'm just wondering, through you, Mr. Chairman, what are the non-educational expenses? And there's a reference in this backup saying that $17 million is allocated to non-educational expenses, and I'm somewhat concerned about that because there's always been the perception. Let me go back to my first discussion about 30% increase on the school side, 30% decrease on the city side. There's always been the perception that, in fact, this council is neglecting its responsibilities on the school side. We never allocated enough to net school spending formula, when actually I have some questions about how our monies were being allocated to education versus non-education expenses. And it's not just rhetoric. This is how the budget is communicated to the public.
Okay, Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, obviously, Councilor Luce, I don't have the backup that was provided to City Council. So I will certainly address what I know about the Worcester Public Schools budget. Yes, our budget has increased, but it is increased based on a state formula, and the increases since I've been here, with the exception of 1 year, where we had stable, flat enrollment, has been driven by enrollment increases. For this current school year, we're up almost 600 students above last year's school enrollment. And so when enrollment increases, that's one of the significant drivers in increasing a school department's budget. And so the increase of both the state funds and the city's contribution are directly related to that, as well as what happens with the inflation factor. Now, again, I think one of the...
I can't hear it because of the discussion.
Who's talking? I didn't hear everything. Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
Just make sure the rules apply to everyone. Go ahead, Dr. Boone.
Thank you. As far as the percentage of the school's budget that represents in the city's budget, I think, again, that was the issue that the Joint Finance and Operations and Education Committee, working with the city auditor, the mayor, and others, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, focused on to help understand exactly how that formula is presented. While when you look at the pie chart that shows over 50% of the city's budget is allocated to the schools, that represents the 2/3 portion of the school's budget that is funded by the state that passes through the city's budget, and that's what, if you will, inflates that particular percentage. When you take out the state share, our growth has not been at that level as described by Councilor Luce. And I will ask Mr. Allen to provide the specifics on educational versus non-educational expenses.
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, I think the terms are net school spending eligible and non-net school spending eligible. So when the formula was constructed back in '93, all of the expense of a school district essentially was contemplated as counting as net school spending eligible, except the state couldn't identify a way to fund certain areas, so they count those as non-net school spending. And those, predominantly of the non-net school spending area, most of it is transportation costs. The other areas are for any building rentals or for crossing guards. For some reason, crossing guards do not count in the foundation budget. So it's transportation, building rentals, and crossing guards make up the funds in the non-net school spending allocation.
Okay, so can I rightly conclude that the city's share of the spending allocation is allocated to transportation, therefore it doesn't show up as part of the formula, and it shows like we're giving less than we should to educational services?
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Councilor Luce?
I'm asking whether the city's share is being allocated to transportation services rather than academic services, thereby generating the appearance that we're not allocating enough money to the formula.
So the way the formula works is any of the city's increase first goes to non-net school spending areas. Then it goes to the net school spending areas to get you, and then anything up and above that is up and above net school spending. That's how the formula works. It's not my formula, it's not the city's formula, it's the state's formula.
So we're caught in a gotcha situation.
No, well, the fact of the matter is transportation services have increased as we talked about, our enrollment is increasing. As Mr. Foley pointed out, the number of students receiving special education services are increasing. That's entirely been the increase in transportation costs over the last several years. We've not added one large big bus in the last 4 or 5 years. All of our transportation increases have been around special education services based on our enrollment changes.
All right, there's been several references to an increase in students this year, 600. Now, as I recall, being on the school committee for 8 years as a member and 3 years as mayor, those projections start with birth certificates, and you project several years. Did you project the 600 increase?
Through the chair, we not only have used the birth rate, but because of the construction project with Nelson Place, we had the advantage of the MSBA enrollment projection system, and we have also worked with the New England Council on School Development in NESDEC. I always get the letters wrong, but NESDEC to help us with enrollment projections. If you will look on page 20, while the 600 students exceeded what both of the projection tools that we had, on page 20 you will see the enrollment of the school department's budget. You will see the enrollment trends that are projected out through FY20 based on current data that we have.
And how correct are those projections?
I didn't understand.
How accurate are they?
As accurate as most projections. Again, they apply a statistical formula looking at the things that you've mentioned: birth rates, transition rates, what are housing patterns. All of those things are used to factor in when they determine what a district's projected enrollment will be. It is not an exact science, but it usually gets pretty close in the ballpark, and then some years we have an anomaly, either more than we anticipated or fewer than we anticipated.
So as of now, can you project what your enrollment is going to be next year?
For FY16, as I said, on page 20 of the
Not
budget.
this September.
That's
September.
FY. I'm going to give.
Okay.
I'm going to give.
All right. I'm
For
sorry. Go ahead.
FY16, our projected budget, projected enrollment, as I said, it's on page 20 of our budget document, 25,340 students. For FY17, the next fiscal year, our projected enrollment is 25,651 students. FY18, 25,846 students. And I will remind council that our enrollment now is back to the levels where we were prior to closing the 7 or 8 schools because of declining enrollment.
Okay.
All right. When let me take a step back. I had suggested to the administration here we do multiple year budgets, and if you can predict with some kind of certainty what your new enrollment is going to be, are you also capable of doing a multiple year budget, 2 years, for example, at a session?
Through the chair, we use that as an internal planning document. We never bill for 1 year. That's why when you look at our enrollment trends and projections, we look at almost a 5% enrollment increase over the next 5 years. 4.6% is what's expected. And so as we use that as we consider through our zero-based budgeting approach, what are the investments that we need to continue regardless of other stressors on the budget. And so enrollment and class sizes and services for English language learners and students with disabilities, services and programs for our advanced learners such as advanced placement, dual enrollment, other things are what we use to project forward. And that's why we do provide trend data in this budget document of where we think our base will be.
Right.
Again,
so is the answer that you can do a multiple year budget or not?
Through the assumptions, let me say, it is difficult. I can put numbers on paper, Councilor Lukes. Let me say it that way. I can put numbers on paper. However, the two factors that really drive the foundation budget as it currently exists from the state, enrollment, where we have some projections, and the inflation factor. The inflation factor is purely the unknown because during the recession, for the first time since '93, when the state started the foundation formula, the inflation factor fell at a negative, which meant there was negative growth within the budget for districts and towns as it related to schools. That is the real uncertainty around the inflation factor. And so, yes, I can put numbers to paper, but again, the assumptions at the state level, the revenue trends and expectations, and the inflation factor are those pure unknowns. We aren't funded in multiple years.
If I could pursue it,
Council Oaks.
the inflation factor didn't seem to have any impact on this budget because you're double the inflation factor.
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, that's because of enrollment changes. The inflation factor that is used in the foundation budget, it was 1.5%, when historically it's been closer to 3%. That essentially, for every 1% change in that inflation factor is about $3.5 million that we will be getting in the foundation budget. The growth in the budget is because of 600 student increase in total enrollment, almost a 900 student increase in the number of English language learner students, and 750 student increase in the number of low-income students in the district. Those are all components of the foundation budget. Our enrollment has driven the increase. That's the reason the budget's gone up as much as it is. Just because the buildings look the same doesn't mean what's going on in the buildings is the same.
Mr. Foley, do you want to address that?
sorry.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, just for the council, and I made the comments earlier, I don't think you heard these, but we can project our budget numbers, but two challenges. One is that the enrollment funding lags 1 year behind the enrollment. So last year, for example, we were educating 600 more students on the dollars that we got in the previous year. This year, we're seeing the increase in the dollars because our enrollment was up last year. But it's a challenge for us to try and fund those, educating those students, because we're not being funded during the course of that year. The second part is that the foundation formula is archaic. So as we see an increase in students from low-income families or English language learners, we know that the formula that's currently in place is not adequate to really predict what's going to cost to educate those children. So those two factors are really hitting us negatively right now, and we hope the foundation formula will be changed.
Is there any attempt to change the foundation formula?
Mr. Allen just went over that a few minutes ago.
The state has a Foundation Budget Review Commission. An initial report is due in end of June, and a final report is due in November.
One last question, because I've been listening to the needs expressed for more adjustment counselors and the staff that has to service the students that are coming in. What's the percentage of academic versus non-academic staff, excluding security and custodial staff?
Through the chair, we have our actual staffing levels here. I have to find the page. But we, of our staff, more than probably half to two-thirds of our staff represent teachers and teaching positions, administrative principals, assistant principals, and the like. That's what's represented with the majority of our work. This budget adds 3 custodial positions because in our contract, our manpower agreement, if we reduce teachers, then we reduce custodians in a comparable percentage. So last year, because we reduced 44 teaching positions, we had a 3 custodial reduction. We restore those 3 this year because we're adding teachers. And so I can certainly look for that page before we leave.
Because it appears from the discussion that we have a much needier student population, and that they require more services and more non-academic staff.
Through the chair, that's exactly what is being discussed extensively in this Foundation Budget Review Commission. When Mayor Petty, School Committee Novick, and I presented before the Foundation Review Commission, the 24 urban districts as well as the non-urban districts talked about students who have a lot of unique needs and how do we address those needs. Obviously, as our percentage of English language learners continues to increase, we are mandated to provide those services for students for whom English is their second language. And so there are those needs. But I will also remind Council, as you've probably read in the paper, that we, along with the Worcester Education Collaborative, were successful in receiving a synergy planning grant with the Community Health Foundation so that we can look at services and supports for to address the issues of students who've experienced trauma in their lives, whether it's from coming to this country either through refugee camps and other places, or as we've seen with families through the recession where family structures were impacted by loss of jobs or instability in jobs and loss of housing. And so we continue to not just look for the funds here to support that, but what are the grant opportunities that we have in order to support those needs. But you will hear from superintendents across this Commonwealth that students and their mental health and social emotional needs are a growing trend and a need to be addressed.
Do you have, through you, Mr. Chairman, any statistics as to the number of refugee families that are now coming into the school system, and whether there's additional funding to meet the needs of those families?
Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, we don't get funding directly for refugees, but that's part of that count that you would see in the increased number of students who could be English language learners, students for whom English is a second language. Those students receive a weighted funding formula, which brings in additional funds to meet those English language needs.
On the formula that on the net school spending?
The state Chapter 70 funding formula, that's correct.
You don't happen to know how much that is?
Both students with disabilities, English language learner students, both have a weighted percentage in that funding formula. That's a second data point we can find, got to go through that right section to find that exact page.
What percentage of those new students coming in fit into that category?
So we've actually had a 600 student increase in total students, but almost a 900 student increase in the number of ELL students. So actually our ELL enrollment is growing greater than our overall enrollment currently, meaning there's more of a turnover of students. The net increase is a 600 student increase, but 900 of them were English language learners.
It appears that there's a lot more stress in our system than I originally thought. And so the resources probably can't keep up with the needs. That doesn't mean I can vote to increase our allocation to the schools, but there clearly is a need there that may not be totally met by local funding and state funding.
And again, that's one of the areas that the Foundation Budget Review Commission is looking at, but it's also the point that Mr. Foley has made a couple of times, in that the further stressor is, even with those increases, the funding for those is 1 year behind. So if that were to continue, we wouldn't receive funds again until FY17. That's the biggest challenge on the budget. So one of the things the Foundation Budget Review Commission is looking at is looking at your change in English language or special need type populations twice a year and making a state adjustment mid-year if you had enrollment increases.
Okay. All set?
I'm just, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if we can get a 6-month report from the school department as to the funding ability of the state to meet some of those needs, because we put a lot of stress on the safety in the schools, but there are other very serious problems going on that don't get the attention that they should be getting. And that's only going to happen if we get more information. So I'm going to make that motion that 6 months from now we get an update on what's happening with meeting those needs of those particular students.
Mr. Allen?
No, and I think the Foundation Budget Review report at the school committee level has already been referred to the joint committee. So when that information becomes available, roughly in 6 months, that is a perfect discussion, at least at that joint committee
But
level.
I'd like to see it also at the city council level.
We can provide that report to the city council, and I'm sure, and our needs on the school side. I'm sure everybody would love to see it on this side. But we've come a long ways, and the city manager has provided additional funding. I know we still have a ways to go, but the challenges are many. But there's a lot of good things happening in the Worcester Public Schools, a lot of good things when it comes to education. And we are behind Council Lewis, and she supports more money for the Worcester Public Schools. Very good. Council Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate all the effort and hard work that's gone into this budget. I certainly have been on that side of the table a number of years ago, but I recall all the discussions about the funding formula. Mr. Allen, you'll remember way back then, 16 years ago, talking about the same thing. So I know you've got this yeoman's work being done. I will try to be brief in my questions. I noticed that the E-rate, was increased dramatically, and I know that you're working on your network and wireless, and you're increasing speed and data. Where are we? And forgive me if I missed this. Where are we in terms of actual hardware and equipment?
So in terms of classroom computers, last year we replaced all 7,500 computers within all of our buildings. And through the E-rate funds, we'll be replacing the back-end infrastructure as well in the upcoming year.
All right, so your hardware is up to date, and now all of the back end will be up to date, and so you'll be good for another year?
Yes.
Unfortunately, technology moves faster than the light of speed of sound. Okay, so what are your plans for being able to continue to upgrade as we move along? We're starting back at step one. We're golden this year. How do we continue to move forward?
So the way we procured our computers was through a 5-year lease. And so every 5 years we'll be entering into a new lease cycle. That way, as you know, our computers, prior to entering the lease, we were getting used. Mm-hmm. So they were already 2 to 3 years old, and then they were expected to last up to 10 years. So under this model, we've built the budget 2 years ago under the lease premise. And so every 5 years, the computers will be refreshed with a new lease.
Okay. Oh, that's helpful. I know that it's been a very long year regarding school safety, and I know that there have been a lot of changes and all of that have been brought forward. But I just wonder, I recall, and again, I know I'm talking ancient history, I recall there being a protocol booklet. Thank you. Protocol booklet on every teacher's desk. Is that something that all of our teachers have? Is there a plan to replace them if they're missing, to go over all of these things? Through the chair.
Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, we still have our protocols, and we utilize those in terms of responses to certain incidents, the administrative team, how we respond to bomb threats. All of those pieces continue to be in place, and we continue to review those annually so that if there are newer practices or best practices we need to consider, we can do that. We will have those examined as part of our safety and security audit that will occur soon.
I guess I wasn't very clear. They were actually there were handbooks physically on every teacher's desk, so that if there were a crisis, they could be referred to. So I'm not talking about current policy. I'm talking about the policy itself. I'm talking about we're going back to hardware, I guess, or handwritten, paper, but it's there. So
those still exist.
They do?
Yes.
In all of the schools, all the teachers have them?
Mr. Allen?
Yes, and a part of the safety budget that we have out of the operating budget would pay for any replacements, but we've codified those as a part of our emergency response plan.
Okay, that's good. That's important that it's there. And also electronically, is it available very easily for a teacher to pick up on their phone, or if they call?
Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, we're actually working on an internal app that would be available to make that available on a smart device if it were needed in an evacuation procedure. We don't have it online yet, but that's something we're working towards.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, because I know that those types of apps are very helpful. Regarding after school, I was pleased to see that we're continuing to support our after school athletics. I think that's critical to student success and development. But there's also another form of athletics, and I've been indoctrinated over the past decade to those kids that get involved in robotics, etc. I know that I was very disappointed this year at first to see only one school participating in that, and it was my understanding that there wasn't funding for that, or the teachers, the principals at the schools weren't. I'm just trying to find out what's going on with that.
Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, I would have to get more information from you. We have a number of schools with robotics programs, and they've competed. WPI this fall, and there are different competitions for the secondary level. There's FIRST Robotics, and there's VEX Robotics. So we have students and teams that participate in both. I happened to attend the FIRST Robotics New England competition that was at WPI. Our Burncoat Green Reapers are part of that group. They weren't successful in going beyond that level this year, but they have participated. There are a number of opportunities throughout the year, throughout the state. There are some where they decide which events they would like to participate in. And so when a robotics team has identified that they are eligible for competition and want to go to that, we certainly have put together and spearheaded efforts to support them. We had students last year from Worcester East Middle School, a team that was competing in California, and they needed support for one additional student, and we provided that support for that. The variability of which competitions and how frequently and all of that, again, it gets to that point of what are the core services that we provide, and then what are the places that we have to support. For example, our Save Our Fine Arts fundraiser. In this budget, we are now in our final year of making sure we are funding fully the core services, the part-time instructors in certain instruments or vocal music or visiting artists and that type of thing. And so that 100% of the Save Our Fine Arts money now will go fully to addressing royalties,
that's wonderful. I'm
trips
glad
and that. So
to hear
that has been, we don't fundraise to teach math. So my belief was that we shouldn't be fundraising for the Arts Magnet program. So each year for the last 4 years, we've been closing that gap. This budget represents $10,000 that will be that final payment where we are funding at 100% the core instructional services for the Burncoat Arts Magnet program, as well as adding a teacher for a course at the middle and high school in digital media.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, because I was part of the original SOFA group that unfortunately we had to raise money to pay for the teachers, and that very happy to hear that. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is the robotics programs. Burncoat was the only one that was there. I was there as well. And it's my understanding that other teams did not participate because there was a local decision made. So I know you probably don't have all the answers on that, but I think it's critical that opportunity is there. Our kids' future jobs are changing for you, Mr. Chair, to the superintendent. And as a former art teacher, yes, I'm thrilled about SOFA, but I'm also very excited and focused on technology. And I think that STEAM is, that's where we have to focus. But I'm just asking if there's a way to make sure that all kids in every school have an opportunity. I know that there was some frustration because time wasn't available for students in some of the schools to work on the robots.
Through the chair, I would have to have more specific information because, again, because we have students that participate in the VEX robotics competition that is separate and distinct from the FIRST robotics. Yes, I know that the Green Reapers have been a FIRST robotics participant all along. We have a number of schools who are in the VEX robotics, and their competition was not that Saturday at WPI. Their competitions are other places. Okay. We also have the robotics programs and competitions and events with Quinsigamond Community College and other places.
Well, I know that. Maybe we can have an opportunity to look at that after, so I'd appreciate that. But in addition to that, I know that there's also a community member who worked on a cybersecurity program to educate students about cybersecurity as a future job. And we had one school that participated, and then some of the kids couldn't get there. So I'd love to be able to get that information sent out to all the schools, because these are the extras that we can't pay for on the budget that the community has available. So love to be able to see that move forward.
Okay.
Through the chair, just my final comment on this. We allow schools flexibility to participate in certain things. We have worked with the district attorney's office to not just address the cyber careers, but also to address the issues of the digital footprint and students understanding the impact that has on their lives and future employment opportunities. Because we are not a one-size-fits-all model, we spend the time making sure that our core instructional program is consistent across the district, but we allow schools and site councils and others to say what are things that they also have interest in, as well as our polling students to see what their interests are.
Okay. I just know through the chair that their students are interested in this, so I want to help. And would love to see that move forward, because that's something that we can't do in the day-to-day curriculum. So that being said, I will agree with my colleague regarding the school adjustment counselors. Is there any plan to increase the numbers in the future for that?
Dr. Bull?
Through the chair, we have a need to increase both school adjustment counselors as well as guidance counselors. Again, as we look at our revenue streams, our revenue pictures, and those continue to be priorities of the school department, and as funds are available, we begin to get into those, as well as reducing the number of students who have multiple study halls in their schedules.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Council Palmieri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And certainly I want to, at a minimum, welcome the superintendent, Brian Allen, and the school committee people that are present today. I'm always struck by administration that is that informs us to such a degree. I'm certainly pleased to hear the superintendent, along with Brian Allen, explain just about every facet of the school department that we might not ordinarily know. So I certainly want to congratulate you in the job that you're doing and that you're continuing to do. It's probably maybe the only thing the city manager might disagree with. Second to the city manager, you probably have the most difficult position in municipal government. I believe it's one of the most difficult positions to be in, and to try to satisfy as many people on a day-to-day basis is a Herculean task, to say the least. With with the countless number of programs that you have. And I think the Worcester School Department has as many alternative programs that help a whole host of students in Worcester. And often the school department does not get credit for all of the work that it does. I know that we have been sometimes focused on just public safety in the public school system for a period of time. I believe that the superintendent, city manager, mayor, police chief have of late worked remarkably well, and I think it's absolutely a credit to everyone that's at that table that we continue to move forward. So I don't want to hop on public safety, but it has been something that has been talked about. I'm just pleased that we, that as a city family, that we are continuously working together to move the public system forward, because it is, without question, the most important part of municipal government. It is absolutely a critical and essential component, whether it's public safety, economic development, education, and it is important. And I also certainly want to recognize the president of the union being here. He's at many of our council meetings. He takes a first-hand look, and I appreciate his presence as well. I was talking to the mayor recently, and there was a program many years ago when I was a probation officer in the juvenile justice system, more years than I want to count in the system and also being out of the system, that I thought worked remarkably well. And that was the mayor had a task force, and that may have been during the Mariano days or even sometime thereafter, where not only the school department, you had social workers, probation officers, the police chief, the chief of juvenile court, the head of the Department of Social Services, that shared enormous amounts of information that I believe helped that helped a lot in being able to resolve or at least identify some of those issues and problems. I know that the mayor, in his infinite wisdom, has begun this process again. It's just beginning. And I know that with your effort, Madam Superintendent, along with the city manager, that this will probably expand, which I think will help enormously as well in the exchange of information. And I think that's an important facet. But I also certainly want to recognize the gifted school program. I think it's just an absolute fabulous idea. Many years ago, I raised it as an issue. I know the mayor has taken the ball and has run with it pretty aggressively, and you're in the beginnings of moving that forward. I think that's extraordinarily healthy for the public school system in the city of Worcester. I think these kinds of programs help enormously. When back in the day when I was a probation officer, I can remember St. Casimir Alternative School with Principal O'Neill, who I believe has done one of the most remarkable jobs in the public school system with children that are challenged. Many of them have been part of the Department of Youth Services, Department of Social Services. Always had it under control, no matter what day I went there. A remarkable job. So I want to applaud the effort of the administration being able to be credited with some of the most difficult programs and that have moved our students forward. So, Madam Superintendent, school committee members, Brian, you know, education, public education is absolutely an essential element. We're always going to have differences of opinion. When we send money over, we'd love it to be attached. But we know that that's not the case. But I think with the working relationship that the mayor has enjoined with you and the superintendent, it's made a difference in being able to, when we're making those decisions in budget, and it's never enough, I know that, but there has been and continues to be a transition that at least we're able to have the kind of communication and the monies that are coming over. I think the council feels better about where those monies are going. I know Mr. Allen has certainly explained to us the antiquated system that we work under with the state. It's not the only part of the antiquated system that we have to deal with on a weekly and a monthly basis. So we're sensitive to it, and I'm pleased that more people recognize and understand that, so that the council always doesn't take the brunt of the criticism. But I know this council feels strongly about public schools, very strongly, and I know Councilor Rivera has been a champion in her district, and it's made a difference for us, as well as many of the other councilors. I know Kate and Connie, being former school committee members, doesn't hurt us at all on this council. Absolutely helps.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
I just want to be just acknowledge the strong job and the continued efforts of the administration, and I hope that it continues so that we can continue to
Thank you.
have a healthy system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Russell.
Mr. Chairman, when I got elected to the council, I made an effort to go to the various different schools that are within my district, within District 3. I visited with each one of the principals and took a tour of each one of the schools, and at that time I offered my assistance in the effort in my role as a counselor, and as well as my role as a citizen. Since then, the principals at Rice Square School and the current principal and the previous principal at Vernon Hill recruited myself and Representative Donahue to serve on the school councils, and I'll tell you, if you spend some time in the schools, you'd be really impressed. Anyone that's got any question or any lack of confidence in the schools, all they have to do is spend a couple of hours in each one of those schools, like I have, or like some of the other citizens have. So that's besides the point. So I think the administration and the schools, the staff across the board should be congratulated for their efforts. But I still have questions. And through you to the superintendent, Mr. Chairman, roughly how many employees does the school department have? Roughly.
Mr. Allen? Doesn't have to be exact, but...
Through the chair, just under 4,000, and it's in our budget book. I was just on that page 25.
Mr. Chairman, I asked a quick question, and I know this is just a small item, but I had asked for this a long time ago through Mr. Zanelis about the city side as well as on the school side. And when Councilor Toomey was talking about technology, it brought it to memory for me. Through you to the superintendent or to Mr. Allen, how many cell phones does the city school department provide staff, roughly?
Mr. Allen?
We
did go through this a couple of years ago, and we spent the whole evening discussing cell phones. But
at the school department,
yeah, the school committee. Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't.
But we can give a quick.
I never got that information, Mr. Chairman.
So we provide them to all school-based administrators as well as most district administrators. So it's probably 200 cell phones, but a majority of the cost is covered currently under E-rate. So we're actually only paying about 20% of the cost of cell phone service. The rest is paid through the E-rate funds for those services.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, what is that fund?
I'm sorry. So on your home phone bill, you probably say universal service charge bill. That goes into the FCC. It's an E-rate fund that provides for phone internet services for schools and libraries. And so that comes back, provides our internet and phone service.
And Mr. Chairman, my question for that was not necessarily even based at the cell phones or the folks that may use them. My question was, and this was about the other city departments also, not just the school department, but are we duplicating our need for communication? Do we have administrators with a phone on their desk and a cell phone in their pocket, and are we paying for both? That's my only question. I just throw that out, and I throw that out to all city departments.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Allen?
Through the chair, I think we have very few employees who are desk bound. And because of the nature of their work, either throughout a school building, as you know from visiting schools, or across the district, that the landline may be there, but again, there are needs for those such as conference calls and things that we may need to do. Certain aspects of the work, we still fax machines are landlines, and so these are the things that we still need in terms of services.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager?
And just on the city side, I'd just echo that. There probably isn't a night or a weekend that goes by that I'm not on the phone either with one of the counselors or one of the city department heads or somebody in the city because there's a water main break or there's some issue in a neighborhood that needs to be resolved. It can't wait till Monday till we're back at the desk using the desk phone. Needs to be taken care of, whether it be emails or text or the cell phone itself. So it really is kind of the modern way of doing business, and, you know, difficult for a lot of people's lives, but the kind of expectation of being available on a 24-hour basis, no matter what might occur.
Councilor Russell?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm not questioning the cell phone use or the purchase of that service. My only question is to, especially with any department folks or administrators who are sitting at a desk for, you know, the majority of their 40-hour week or whatever hours of the week they work, and if they have a phone in their pocket and they have a phone on their desk. I'm not questioning the cell phone. I'm questioning the phone on the desk and why we need that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gaffney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, it's to the chair. Kind of put in an untenable position here because what I'm being asked here is to approve a $14 million increase here without knowing the costs are actually being controlled. I know on the city side we've reduced our expenses by 30%. I know that the non-net school spending includes substantial transportation costs. I heard that earlier. I have from a good resource that with regards to the busing, there's about $1 million worth of savings there that could actually be money that's going to pay for more educators rather than money that's being what would seem to me to be actually wasted. And at the very beginning of this inquiry, I was advised that there was no identification of any savings. Well, by the time we get around to it, we know that there's some savings, but we have absolutely no idea how much that is. I'm going to go with the resource that I have, which is the city manager. I trust in him, and that we're being asked, or I'm being asked, to approve of $14 million more in spending without knowing that we're actually controlling costs. I don't understand how I'm being asked to do that, and allegedly I'm going to find out what that number is maybe later on tonight. That's very disappointing, and I find it rather vexing, and it's untenable to ask at this point without actually seeing those numbers. Further vexing was the conversation trying to find out what the numbers were to begin with. Further, with regards to safety, that's come up a number of times in this conversation this afternoon. I have my thoughts on safety. This is the budget meeting, so I'm going to refrain from addressing those further. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Boone?
Through the chair, because of our 7-point financial plan, you can look through our budget narrative and see cost savings that we have implemented throughout this budget. One specific example that I gave in my opening remarks, the containing the costs of special education services, particularly for those with our students with autism, by bringing those staff in-house rather than having a third-party contractor. That resulted in $100,000 in savings and became part of the pool of money for additional special education teachers. We also looked at what are the cost containment. Our non-represented employees and retirees will be moving to the city's new health insurance plan design and plan design changes and the medication piece. Those savings are reflected in this budget also. I would also remind Councilor Gaffney that we employ a zero-based budgeting approach within the schools. every program, every service goes through a thorough annual review, and we don't just keep doing things because we always have. We have trimmed our services. We have contained our costs. We're an effective partner with the city on energy conservation and management and what we've done there. With the city allowing and supporting the schools using this $3 million of capital funds, we've been able to leverage almost $44 million in accelerated building repair projects that have resulted in changes of either windows, roofs, and or boilers for energy efficiency, and those dollars are reprogrammed into this for programs and services that go directly to the schools. As far as the other aspect of cost containment, I would have to refer the counselor to the state's foundation budget process, the Chapter 70 funding formula. That formula dictates where we are. As City Manager Augustus has worked and asked council to support his budget for the schools, that includes additional funds. It still puts Worcester, the city, at near net school spending, whereas other communities are several percentage points above that net school spending. So I think given what we're doing, we're containing costs very well, because our students are not having to pay for athletics, our students are not having to pay for advanced placement courses, and we're still having students who have challenges within their schedules because, again, for as far as we've gone, our needs are still there.
Mr. Foley?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Foley had a comment.
I need to follow up, because how do we know that we're containing our costs if we don't even know how much the potential savings were from the audit?
Mr. Foley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of quick comments, if I could. First of all, I think we need to put the audit on the transportation issue in some context here. There were two reports made in a follow-up conversation by the consultants. The first one that they presented to us was looking at just, how do you take a look at a district without regard for what is happening in that district? If you eliminate this, what can you possibly save? When they took a second look and we worked with them, they adjusted their numbers, they adjusted their belief of how much can be saved. If you want to require elementary school students who live closer than 2 miles to walk to school, whereas we right now will pick them up and help them out if it's really an unsafe condition. If you want to eliminate grades 7 through 12 busing, which could have a major negative impact upon our secondary schools and put us in great peril as a district. If you want to increase the length of travel time for students to a point that's really, it becomes absurd, putting a child on a bus for 50 minutes, an hour or longer, you can save some dollars. But we felt on the school committee side, and that's where that decision rests, that it was not important for us to go forward for the minimal dollars that were being saved by the review by the consultant. So I would say to the council that respectfully, the decision for how we spend the dollars on the school side rests with the school committee. We're glad to be here to take comments, and we've created the joint committee to have that kind of sense of transparency and communication with the council so that we can hopefully understand better how we are spending those dollars. But realistically, most of the new money coming in the budget being discussed tonight is coming from the state. And then the city is mandated to meet their required spending level. So the decisions being made on how to spend those dollars rest with the school committee. And I can say, I think my colleagues will join me, that we are working with the administration very carefully to make sure those dollars are being spent wisely.
Thank you. Okay. All set. Okay. So I'll wrap it up, and Mr. Manager will wrap up after me. But just wanted to thank you coming out today and participating in the budget process. I know the challenges are many in the Worcester Public Schools. We have over 25,000 children that go to the Worcester Public Schools, and I think we do a great job. I really do. I think Dr. Boone does a good job in his administration. And people should point out, too, Mr. Allen, I don't know the exact statistic, but administrative costs on the statewide average is pretty low compared. Worcester's probably one of the lowest when it comes to administrative costs that we allocate to administration. Is that true?
Through the chair, we spend well below what the foundation budget allocates for administration, and we spend well below what other urban communities spend on administration as a percentage.
Yeah, one of the lowest in the state of Massachusetts, if I remember correctly.
Through the chair, you're correct.
Yeah. So we do watch our costs, and probably to the detriment sometimes. Sometimes I think we should have more administrators in the Worcester Public Schools, but to get the job done. But we've come a long way in the last 3 years, and I'll take a little credit as mayor is trying to bring people together and we've come a long way. And I want to thank the city manager. I want to thank the city council, too, for supporting the budget recommendations of the manager and the superintendent, increasing funding to the Worcester Public Schools, even though it's not to the extent that some people would want, but it's the extent that we could afford. And working cooperatively is a lot easier than working against each other. And when it comes to the transportation audit, I know that went to the subcommittee, a joint subcommittee of the Worcester City Council and the Worcester School Committee, which was reviewed. And most of those savings is to cut transportation. That's what the $1 million is from. If we want to eliminate 7th through 12th busing, which I think the school committee's recommendation was not to do that, and also to extend timing of the buses or to eliminate some of the mileage under 2 miles. So, which isn't many anyways, but the majority of the non-school spending is transportation. It's around, what is it, $16 million this year? I'm sorry.
Just over 17 million.
Over 17 this year. It was 15 a couple of years ago. And that's because transportation costs and also because student enrollments have increased dramatically in the last year. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick points. I want to just thank the superintendent and her team for the working relationship that we have, not only around this budget, but around all the different issues that we confront together as a city, whether it be record snowfall and the cleanup from that, or some of the safety concerns that have come to the surface over the last couple of months. We try to approach, I think, our discussions about not what do we have to do, but what can we do, which I think is the expectation that the citizens of Worcester have. Work together, figure it out, do the right thing by the kids, by the citizens, by the taxpayers, and we certainly try to do that. I would also make sure the council knows, and through their action, we are supporting other efforts within the Worcester Public Schools, whether it be, I think, a creative use of community development block grant dollars, building out a science lab at the University Park campus, making sure that any accreditation issues there are dealt with and that the students there have the chance to have that hands-on science experience. Certainly some of the actions the council took around health insurance had some benefits on the school side, whether it be for some school department employees and some of their school department retirees. I think those changes benefited about $500,000 of additional flexibility within the school department budget. So again, we are working together in trying to make sure that the dollars are looked after, yes, but the services are provided that our young people need. And I know the commission idea is critical. When I was in the Senate, I attached actually that language to 2 Senate budgets, asking for a commission to study the foundation. This is long overdue because, quite frankly, the questions that Councilor Lukes was asking about earlier and others, it is challenging because we do put in significant resources that don't count toward that net school spending number. And so when we just talk about what that gap is, we don't fully capture the city's effort with limited resources to try to meet our obligations and provide for the important services of our young people. So getting that formula updated, getting it to be more transparent, more clear, and really better reflecting all of the dollars that go into support education, I think would do us all a world of good in terms of our conversations and our discussions and just the public knowledge about what goes into the cost of educating a young person. So I look forward to continuing to work with the superintendent, her team, and the members of the school committee, and thank them for all their efforts.
Thank you. And also want to thank you for the plan you put in at North High School. I thought it was a good plan. We're going to have the climate of the school and how you change the climate of that school, more than just putting a police officer there. And also how the response of the Burncoat High School and Technical High School, response to the administration, the Worcester PD, and how they work together. And I thought the chief of police put it pretty clearly that the schools are safe. He said it, I've said it, and they are safe. And he put it pretty clearly, too, it's not a school issue, it's a community issue. And so from there, we will go from there. So motion is to approve. Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Councilor Bergman? Yes. Economou?
Yes.
Gaffney?
No.
Lukes?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Rosen?
Yes.
Rushton?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. Okay, we can go to Public Library on page 61.
Listen, I know.
Okay, any questions on the Public Library? We're all set there. Mr. Dickinson, great job. Welcome to Worcester. I hope everything's going well. We do have a motion to approve, so you can you can take a chance there if you like.
I have a question.
Okay, before motion to approve.
No.
Before
Questions. Wait a minute.
we do have a question for you.
I can't find
Council
it
Lukes.
here. All right. I can't find that index here, but I was just wondering, through you, Mr. Chairman, what other sources of dollars the library has. I know there's a trust fund with about $9 million from the Green Trust, and that has about $255,000 a year in income. Am I correct? All right. And I was wondering what that money's used for and what other fundraising efforts are predictable during the year.
Mr. Dickinson?
Now it is, through the chair. The majority of the funds that are brought into the library that are not city money is through our library foundation and through our Friends group, and then through our trust funds that you had mentioned.
And how much do those normally equal a year? And what are they used for? Can they be used for operations, for salary, etc.?
So the Worcester Public Library Foundation has been very active in funding the One City, One Library. So those funds primarily have gone to that initiative. The Friends overall fund programs, and they're...
You're competing with the crowd outside.
Sorry.
Okay, I think you're okay now.
Am I okay? So the Worcester Public Library Friends funds programs primarily, and the revenue that they bring into the library is about $16,000 a year. The trust funds, you are correct, they generate approximately $250,000. But from that generation of income, some of the funds have 25% that go back into the fund, and some of it is limited as to what it can be used. But what we do use historically has been between $150,000 to $200,000, and it's used for different initiatives that are set by the board, but that also support staff development initiatives that the board.
So they're not used for salaries.
No.
Right.
No.
Is there any legal way you can invade the principal of the Green Trust? It has $9 million, which is a comfortable cushion.
Through the chair, most of that is actually limited through the will that was set forth, so it is very restricted as to what we can even touch.
How many years ago, though? I thought that it was a 50-year duration where trusts can expire.
We can get
Am I wrong?
You want to get a report on that?
That I'll have to.
Nobody knows. Okay. All right. Yeah, if we could have a report. Yeah.
No, I don't think there's a time frame on it. You can go, and I'm sure the counselor knows this as an attorney, a cypre, if there's no longer a way to actually use it for the intended purpose, which is not the case here. You know, certainly there's a lot of challenges with the Green will in terms of just the governance structure of the library. Quite frankly, it's our most unique city department, with a board that's appointed by the city council and a librarian that's hired by the board, and yet it's considered part of a city department. So it's kind of a hybrid situation, which all stems from Dr. Green's will. I would also mention for the councilors' edification, we do receive the pilot dollars that the city receives from some of the colleges and universities that have pilot agreements with the city. Those dollars are funneled to the Worcester Public Library, primarily in support of the One City, One Library, but some of their other efforts like the bookmobiles, etc.
Well, I would ask for a motion for more further, because I don't know what the intentions of the trust were, and I don't know if those
All those in
intentions
favor,
are still
opposed, so
there.
awarded?
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All those in favor, opposed, so awarded. Well done. We'll get you next year. I'll give you a reprieve this year. Okay. We have Department of Public Works. So motion is approved. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Department of Public Works. Next.
Mr. Chairman, at neighborhood meetings, there's always a request for more crosswalks, more signs, etc. I'm just wondering, what's our capacity in Public Works to respond to those requests? For example, how many people in the city department are available to keep up with all the crosswalk and sign requests?
Can we just wait till they get ready? Okay.
I know last time I asked this was about 5 years ago. There were 2 people.
I think it was asked last week in the City Council.
Yeah. I know it was asked. We didn't get an answer.
Is Paul here? We'll wait for the commission to come in and. Okay, the question, Council Luke's had a question regards the crosswalks. What's the capacity from a
signs
for signs,
street signs,
and
keep up with the requests.
Crosswalks, street signs. What's that capacity from a manpower point of view? And
if I can, through the chair, to answer Councilor Luke's, I believe that was her. One of the things that we did do in this year's budget is we added 3 positions in the street department. And one of my goals for those 3 positions is to catch up on signage. This winter we lost several hundred signs on top of ones that we were already, in the queue to be done. So this year our goal is to get signs up quicker. After the council passes a sign, whether it's a no parking or whatever it may be, we want to get it up in a matter of a week or 2, not months. So that's a high priority. As far as crosswalks go, we plan on about 1/3 of all the crosswalks each year be done, and we've been on that schedule for about 4 or 5 years now. We've set that. It takes about $300,000, and we've been spending that. This year, we're probably a little behind because this winter was particularly hard, particularly on the main lines where there was a lot of salt. We're probably going to be replacing crosswalks that are like 1 year old, and we're doing that right now. We started last month.
So when I get that question in a neighborhood meeting, how many people do I say we have in the department that are allocated to perform those functions?
That's done by a hired contractor. It's not done internally.
Oh, it's not. So we farm it out.
Yeah, we farm it out. Really? Our engineering division oversees it and inspects it and, accounts for it all and pays for it, but it's not done internally.
Is that true with the signs also?
No, the signs are internal.
So how many people do we have working on that?
It varies day to day. It may only be 1 or 2, and it may be 4 or 5, but it's not.
Okay, the answer I've been giving is 2. So
well, 2 is the way it's been. We've had one of our sign makers has been injured since about this time last year. I want to say last June, so he's been out for like a year. So that has really hurt our productivity. In addition to the fact that we wanted to improve it, that was another problem there.
All right, you have many more monumental problems than that, but citizens only are concerned with what they see in their neighborhood. So, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're just going to do everything together. Councilor Toomey.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I've had the privilege of being chair of Public Works for a couple of terms now, and I have to say that the incredible work that's been done by the folks who are in the Public Works Department, Parks and Recreation Department, have been nothing short of almost miraculous. Doing more with less, working under incredibly difficult circumstances against many odds, being out in the elements, and I really have a great respect for everybody in that department, from the folks who answer the phones constantly. That's a great department and great program, to the commissioner and his staff, some of whom are here today. You've always been very responsive, and I think that you all deserve our gratitude for the hard work that you do. That being said, I do want to mention that I'm really concerned about future purchasing for equipment and making sure that we're giving you the tools that your men and women need to perform and to do the job. Could you talk to me a little bit about your plan for replacement of operating equipment?
Through the chair, that's actually an item that's in the capital budget, which isn't in front of us, but I'll answer that. Historically, we spend around $1 million on capital equipment, and that's tax levy capital, which would be street department, parks division, cemeteries. It wouldn't include water and sewer. It barely keeps us even with the rate of deterioration of old equipment. Our chief of our garage, he likes to say most of our equipment's old enough to vote, which is true. So it is something, as the city manager and I have had some conversations last year, we kicked that up a little bit, particularly on the park side. We were able to get some new equipment. But it's like everything else, when we look at it holistically, there's got to be a trade-off between what we should be buying, what gives us added productivity is obviously a higher priority, and then, our other needs. So it's all part of that whole look at capital.
I noticed that regarding the fuel, there doesn't seem to be any major changes in that part of the budget. Is there? Because we just saw gas going up. Was it 20, 30 cents within a week or so? So I'm just wondering, we're committed already for a certain number of years for our gas?
Our fuel is a fixed price. So we know for this year what it is.
Through the end of the fiscal year or through the following year? Do we have a 5-year
It's on a calendar.
contract?
This
or?
calendar?
It runs through next December.
Good, you answer that.
Through the chair to the counselor, for all intents and purposes, we bid that out what would be more on a calendar year basis. So for the next 6 months, our price for fuel is fixed.
Okay. And also of note was there's actually an increase in the budget for trash bags. Could you talk about that, please?
That's correct. That's our cost to have the trash bags manufactured. In this year's budget, we've run over what we had budgeted. The cost has gone up. So we're anticipating for next year the increase that we saw this year, but also that will be rebid, the contract for the manufacture of the bags. And from what we hear in the marketplace, we do expect some cost increase.
Okay. The other thing regarding your street division, they do yeoman's work. And I know that we're going up a little bit in salaries, and I don't think we're increasing position by 1.
3.
Mr. Musi?
Or so I'm looking at. Am I on the wrong page? 204.
The street department has gone up by the 3 positions I mentioned earlier.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, I was looking on the wrong page. And then the other thing is the Parks and Recs division, the maintenance for the parks, et cetera. How is that working out?
Mr. Musi?
The budget is essentially level funded from last year, with the exception of contract raises that the employees. So in actually all of the DPW budgets, the clerical union and 495, which is the majority of the staff, they have contracts, and the increases you see in wages is to cover those contracts. Additionally, in the Parks Division, we've added one position, and that position is a playground inspector. We have 40 playgrounds. We had a consultant take a look at those, and some of them have some significant defects. And my research is these playgrounds can become a liability.
Right.
But beyond that, we certainly don't want to see children hurt. So we're going to have a person who will be a certified playground inspector who will go out and inspect our playgrounds, but also repair them. It'll be a work-informing position, so he'll also be a worker to actually repair things.
Okay. And then street lighting division. How has that been going since we've taken over?
In terms of street lights, you know, as you may have heard through the manager, we're looking into doing a conversion to LED, and there's a lot of moving parts with N-Grid. The budget is really predicated on us continuing the way we've been going, but if we do the conversion, there'll be some savings there. We've been able to, I think, respond pretty well to maintenance needs, to calls for our lights out, things like that. I think that we've been able to manage it.
What's the wait time on that?
Well, it depends. If it's just a light bulb or a simple repair, we can do it in a day or two when we have a truck available. But other times, it requires us to coordinate with N-Grid, and it requires an excavation in the street if it's an underground wire broken. That can take a little time to coordinate. So, you know, those things, those items can take even months to get to, where, like I say, the routine things that is just a light bulb or a ballast can go pretty quick.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, there have been recent, there are things that impact the budget just like they would in your home, accidents and things like that. I know recently up on Vernon Hill there was a car ran into the light at the top of Vernon Hill. Now, who assumes the cost of repair for that? It was light, the pole, everything was down.
The Department of Public Works maintains an insurance recovery operation. And whenever there's an incident regarding city infrastructure, whether it's a street light, a traffic signal, stop sign, hydrant, if there's an accident report, if there's any way we can do it, we bill the insurance company. If there is no way for us to track down who did it, the city ends up paying for those repairs.
Could I get a report on that, please, and how many claims we have out that haven't been paid? But we have insurance company information, just so that we can stay. I want to make sure we stay on top of them and get money back. Because I mean, no one's supposed to be driving without insurance, but
well, it's not so much driving without insurance. There's no accident report. There's no witness. Okay. Whoever might have hit the item, whether it's a hydrant or whatever, drove away.
Okay.
That's what I.
And the rest of it, we're self-insured, so I mean that's.
But we don't do that as it's through insurance. It comes out of our O&M budget. So whenever we can, we bill an insurance company.
Okay. All right. And again, thank you to you and all the members and your staff for all the hard work that you do every day.
Collectively, Councilor Toomey's motions. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Councilor Russell.
Mr. Chairman, it's no secret that I've been a fan of the Public Works Department staff and the Parks Department staff in recent history. It's also no secret that I have not hesitated to say when I haven't been a fan of the Parks Department or the Public Works Department. The past year or two, it's been very good, and I have to compliment all the staff and the management, especially through the terrible winter that we had. I have some basic questions, Mr. Chairman. May I ask, first of all, a question about the water rate?
Sure, you can ask. We're going to do it all collectively, so yeah, you can ask.
I can ask that now, Mr. Chairman, through you to either the manager or to the commissioner. I looked at the first of all, when I think it was the weekend before last, where there was a water main break just off of Hamilton Street, and you see, what happens when the system gets old and how you have to put money continuously into the system to try and detect these leaks before they turn into a catastrophe like that happened on that street about a week ago. So it's pretty obvious to me that even though it's something that none of us like to do, it's something that's probably necessary as we go with increased costs and especially with increased federal mandates. But my question to you, through you, Mr. Chairman, maybe to Mr. Musi, when I look at the report that was put out that I requested, and I don't have it in front of me now, and I'm sure you don't have it in front of you also right now, but it was pretty much the same report that it was a year ago. It was I got a copy of the previous report from the clerk, and it was pretty much the same thing. And the only thing that I question is, and I just don't understand the math of it, if you will, that for such a small increase, we're talking about, what, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Commissioner, what was it, like $20 a house or something to that effect? $22 a house. If you take that away, how does that equal 40 jobs? I just don't understand it. And that the same thing was in the previous year's report. It's like such a small number for an average residential use, but yet it's such a catastrophe in the department budget.
Mr. Musi?
Probably the easiest way for me to answer this is the Department of Public Works sells 8,000 million gallons of water a year. That's 8 billion gallons of water. So it doesn't take a big rate increase to be a significant amount of money. Okay? And that rate increase that is $22 for a single-family home on average is also applied to hospitals and colleges and out-of-town users. And when you put that all together, it's a significant number.
So in an average single-family home, we're only seeing about a $20 increase a year, $22 a year?
When we ran that on our computer, that's our average single-family home, which is around 68 CCF.
So that would have only been about a $5 increase per quarter on a regular bill. Okay. Mr. Chairman, my other question was, I've always been an advocate of filling positions at a salary of less than the previous one. And I know when I spoke to the manager about the loss of senior staff just recently in the water department, he had talked about combining that with the sewer department, I believe, through you to the manager. Could you explain that, please?
Mr. Manager?
I'll let the Commissioner jump in. It was actually Mr. Garen's position was the Director of Environmental Services. He replaced the Commissioner of Water and Sewer, and we eliminated his former position as we moved Mr. Garen up to the Director of Water Sewer.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman. So that was just on the water division, not on the sewer division?
That's correct.
They had previously been combined. The water sewer directors were previously two separate positions going back a number of years. They were combined to one position previously. That person has left, and instead of having an environmental director in the water department, that person has moved up to that position. The environmental director's position has been eliminated.
Just, Mr. Chairman, again, not to belabor the point, but on page 236, I see the Director of Water and Sewer Operations. Then I see the next line right under that, the Director of Environmental Systems, which shows just a line, meaning the position is not funded this year. But then back on page 231, under Sewer Division, the Assistant Director of Water Operations is funded and, in fact, increased at $92,888. Is that the same position, or is that somebody else?
That's different. That's a different position. As the city manager pointed out, some years ago we combined the water and sewer under one director. Previously there was two, but there was an assistant director under both water and sewer. So there was two assistant directors, one for water, one for sewer. So that didn't change. What did change was the Director of Environmental Systems that you see a blank. That was an executive management position that we gave up.
Okay, so there's still an Assistant Director of Sewer Operations
and
a Director of Water and Sewer Operations.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions on any of the items in public works? Councilor Rosen? I'm sorry, Councilor Klama was prior to you, then followed by Councilor Rosen.
Right.
That's right, District 5. Back off. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, through the chair to the commissioner or to Assistant Commissioner Antonelli, this is in regards to the golf course and the enterprise account there. And if I'm not understanding it right, that it should fund itself, is that an accurate statement? Then my question is, how competitive are we as compared to other municipalities or other public-private, semi-public-private courses in the area? And in any of our contracts that we have with our vendors at the golf course, is there any provision in there for them to get use of the facility for no cost for the work that they do at the course?
Mr. Musi?
Okay, there's several questions in there. The first question is, should it be self-sufficient? I guess that's really, where different people have maybe different opinions. I don't think it's unusual for communities to subsidize public golf courses. In the case of our golf course, we expect to have to subsidize it this year at around $150,000. That's what we show in the budget. It does bring in about 1.1 or 1.2 million on its own. In terms of your second question, I think it was the second one, that do the vendors have use of the golf course? The answer is no. And was there a third question? Oh, the competitiveness. We feel that we're pretty close price-wise. We look at our competition. We did not raise rates this year because we feel that a rate increase would probably hurt us because there are nearby competitors that are priced pretty similar. We feel in order to make the golf course work or get it closer to break even or get it to break even, we have to sell more rounds of golf. We can't do it with price increases. I think to that end, in the upcoming months, the city manager and I will, are looking at different plans. We'll be presenting something to the council that we hope can turn that golf course around in terms of being subsidized. But right now, I don't think we're ready to, discuss it. We haven't developed anything too far.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman, is there has there anything been looked at for even T sponsors? If I'm not mistaken, I thought at one point there were granite markers on the course with businesses attached to them. I don't know if that's an avenue for revenue. I just want to make sure whoever's supposed to be paying is paying. And then on top of that, what kind of revenue is coming out of the function space that is there at the golf course?
Mr. Musi?
The operator that has the contract, which was publicly bid, he pays us annual rent of around $30,000 a year for the space. And then above that, he pays us 2% of his gross, and that will go to 2.5% starting January 1st of 16.
Councilor O'Connell?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just when I go up there, I was there today for lunch, Grill on the Hill, and I got to say the golf course is in. I'd put it up against any golf course in the area. It's in excellent condition, and I got to tell you, the staff up there does a great job. My concern is that I don't feel or I see that we're generating the maximum revenue out of that resource, and I would just ask. Through the chair to the city manager to the commissioner, that we look at all avenues possible to do what we can to get the maximum out of that situation there. And I'd like to see it to go to a zero that from our side, and I'm sure those are common sentiments.
Mr.
Thank
Manager?
you.
Just, I agree with both of the comments of Councilor Conomo. One is the condition and the job that they do up there. They really make us proud for a municipal golf course, the condition it's kept in. And secondly, that we need to figure out how to make this thing pay for itself. That is an absolute goal of ours. And as the Commissioner mentioned, we literally just this morning were talking about this. We talked to Assistant Commissioner Antonelli about this. We will be coming forward within this fiscal year with some specific recommendations to the council that we hope will put us on the path. I don't want to make a pun here, on the path to making this not only pay for itself, but maybe even generate a little bit of revenue.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. We have all set. Councilor Rosen, followed by Councilor Palmieri, followed by Councilor Wilkes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, a few years ago, we got out of the airport business, and it may be time for the council to take a look at maybe getting out of the golf course business, too. And that's another item, another order maybe in the future. Real quickly, through the chair to the commissioner, sewer and water rates, any chance that you can foresee that they could go down in the future?
Mr. Musi?
If I can, through the chair, I wish I could sit here and predict that, but it wouldn't be honest of me. If anything, costs continue to go up. We just saw salary increases, particularly on the sewer side, the Upper Blackstone. It's a significant amount of money, and it goes up every year. I'm actually pretty proud of the fact that 2 years in a row I've been able to sit here with only like a 3% rate increase, where previous to that we went many years with 10% increases. I can't even say that won't be back. It would just be unrealistic for me to predict that. We have a very old infrastructure, both on the water and sewer side, and frankly, in order to keep rates under control, particularly on the sewer side, we don't even spend as much as we probably should to keep modernizing the system. And that's really been, the result of all the EPA mandates and things that we've had to spend money on. It really defers what we should be doing in capital improvements without really, increasing rates even more. So I guess anything's possible, but I certainly wouldn't want to lead anyone to believe that that's likely.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I asked that question because later on tonight when we vote the water and sewer rates, I'm going to make a motion to amend the rates and go along. I'll vote for the increase that's being suggested, but as long as it's for the next 2 years. So you'll get the increase that DPW is looking for this coming fiscal year, but you'll know what you have to live with for the year after. So that's coming later on, and people can, think about that. Through the chair to the commissioner, how do we decide for main arteries resurfacing? Let's take Mill Street, for instance. I know how we choose side streets and so on, that process, but how do we choose main arteries?
The main arteries are chosen through the chair by the administration.
Right, I know. Thank you. I know they're chosen by the administration, but what process do you use? Because I look at, and I just choose Mill Street because I spend a lot of time in that area. I look at Mill Street being so needy. So what criteria does the administration use in making these selections of main arteries?
It's really need, and it's where we affect the most people. So the main arteries with the highest traffic count, are more important to us because, just more people benefit from those being done. Mill Street is in poor condition, as you know. Mill Street is going to have 8,000 feet of water main installed in it this year, so any resurfacing needs to wait. But there's other roads with a lot higher traffic counts that are in poor condition also. So it's a trade-off. And the other piece that, we try to do is not do it all in one neighborhood of the city. We try to give every neighborhood a portion of it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Musi, I think we went through a trial period on using bags in certain areas of the city for recycling. And I heard that worked out pretty well. Is that something that we're going to have here in the city of Worcester in the future?
It's a study that we conducted that we've just finished. We'll be putting a report together, actually in a matter of weeks. I'll be sending that to the city manager for him to forward to the city council. And really what the report will be, here's the results of the study, here are the pros and cons. There's a significant cost to doing a program like this. And then sometime, over the upcoming months, we'll put together a formal recommendation of what should go forward. There's been some conversations between myself and the manager, and we really haven't made a decision on that. We can give you the results of that trial, okay? But the actual recommendation on what we think we should do, really, like I said, we have to take into all factors, particularly costs.
I know most residents, through the chair, most residents don't obviously ever want to pay for recycling bags, but they certainly would like to use bags that are closed up so their recycling and those of the neighbors won't be blowing all around the community. So I'm sure there's some pros and cons on that. The beaches, real quickly, the beaches, when do they open, and when do they open with lifeguards? I guess the first day they have lifeguards, but
I need to ask Mr. Antonelli.
I just want the date because they're planning a big function over at Coes Pond Beach on June 27th. I think it's going to be pretty close.
Through the chairman to the councilor, July 1st.
Oh, July 1st, okay. And let's see, my last question, and maybe for the Parks Commissioner again, what is the policy at our parks, I would say pools, I guess, not too many of those, and certainly swimming areas, about putting, even Little League areas too, putting rubbish containers out with bags and picking those up? And I ask that on behalf of the Co-Zone Task Force, where we've done a lot of recent work, and we're trying to keep that beach so clean now at Coes Pond. And the people are cooperating who go to the beach. It's just that we don't have a system yet where we can get those bags that we're buying and putting in a can that we put there. We don't have a system to have them picked up. So what is the policy? Through the chair to someone.
Rob, do you know specifically on that one?
Mr. Antonelli?
Through the chairman to the councilor. So standard policy is that those facilities will get picked up. We do not get to every facility every day. We have one standard person that drives around 40 hours a week picking up trash. Problems end up becoming, and we've seen this in many of our facilities, where we get a lot of household trash. So we're getting little bags full of household trash that we can empty at 7 in the morning and be full by noontime. So based on that issue, there are times where that happens. In the discussion that we've had regarding Coes, we will put that on our Mill Street, Logan Field route to be able to have that picked up. But each and every facility that we add to the system requires more time for that to happen, which then decreases the amount of time that we have to pick up in other areas of the city. So, many times we go back and forth, particularly as we get into winter months, and we pull trash barrels because we get a lot less use, and then it's less that we need to go into to pick up, and we can focus on those ball fields, those areas that are in desperate need of that trash pickup on a more consistent basis. So we manage that on a seasonal basis based on that function.
And through the chair, but you realize we do need that trash pickup at Coes Pond. We have no choice. There is no choice. We can't just have people throwing it down or letting it pile up. I mean, I don't see any option except to have the city come by a couple times a week and take the trash.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilor, that will end up using that location as part of our Logan Field, Mill Street, Bennett Field pickup route, and so that will be part of that function.
Through the chair, who usually provides the bags for the trash?
Most places we don't supply bags. We just take if they are there, then they're supplied during the season or the season that we're there. So if we have lifeguards there, they will supply the bags. Not all facilities have bags. Some of them are just barrels. Trash goes in. We take the trash and put it into the back of our packer, and it goes out that way. So not all the time is it in bags.
Okay, my last comment, Mr. Chairman. As the District 5 council the past year and a half, I've worked with Rob Antonelli, and I just want to put in a great word. Rob does a great job with the parks, and I think understaffed, and they're all overworked, as he mentioned. It's hard to pick up all the trash with one person working 40 hours doing his route. But Rob has been so helpful, not only at Coes, throughout my district, and I'm sure the other councilors would say the same thing. So I appreciate what everyone in Public Works does. If there's one department, the main department that I, as the councilor in beautiful District 5, deal with, it's Public Works and Parks, and I'm sure the other 4 councilors would probably say the same thing. We get good responses. We don't always get yeses, but we get timely responses, and Rob Antonelli has just done a great job, I think, trying to manage 60 parks, playgrounds, whatever they are, Little League fields, and certainly short-staffed. I hope maybe next year's budget we can take a look at a few more staff members in the parks area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. It is now about 6:30. I know we have a couple more councils on the side. The question is, we can continue the rest of this next week about 5:30, if you like, after Public Works is done. Yeah. So next week we will come back. So the people who are here, if you want to leave, you're more than welcome to. And so we'll do the Administrative and Finance and City Clerk next week, and we will finish up DPW tonight. Okay? And the next week, in committee, we'll have to take up 2 motions, 8A and 8B. Then that'll be on, then we'll vote that in the Worcester City Council that night after that. Okay. We have Council Palmieri, followed by Council Lukes.
One person. I'll get back to the pickup of trash. Only having one person to do that, I think, is mind-boggling to me. It's a concern, Mr. Mayor, that for each and every district, not only district councilors, at-large councilors, we have those calls that come in continuously. I know that we can't add to a budget, but if there was a place that would make some common sense to have only one person pick up all of the trash in the 57 parks, or 60, thank you, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, they do an adequate job, and I will applaud, as Councilor Rosen has indicated, the efforts of Mr. Antonelli. Each and every time I call, I do get a response, and a positive one. But this is a part of a budget that we need to be a little more creative with to be able to serve our community. Now, and I'll also speak glowingly of the commissioner. I've called him as much as I call the past commissioner, and he responds immediately in a positive way. So between him and his staff, I want to certainly applaud their efforts. What struck me, though, was, Mr. Commissioner, talking about the unfunded mandate through, I guess, the requirements from the EPA that has not only straddled our city with a huge undertaking of having to pay these bills, but that it has this absolute negative impact on the infrastructure of our city is really troubling, to say the least. So my first question might be, through you, Mr. Mayor, what progress have we made, are we making, to attempt to resolve this scientific problem and scientific issue of improving, water in the system, but that it's absolutely having a profound impact on the infrastructure of water and sewer in the city is extraordinarily troubling.
Mr. Chair, I think, as I pointed out in the water sewer rate recommendation, I think the term that we used there was there's a glimmer of hope. Well, there really is. Politically, many communities are being affected by, stormwater permits, CSO permits, and the cost of complying to these things. And recently, I see a sea change where there's a lot more pressure to look at these things and to look at, what costs are on communities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, even Mass Municipal Association, which frankly has been sitting on their hands for years. They even opened their mouths this year. Congressmen and senators from this state have spoke out on behalf of communities and the burden that it's causing. So it's put EPA in a position where they have to really rethink how they're treating communities and how they're blind to costs. Beyond that, there's the whole concept that I talked about in the rate recommendation of integrated planning. And that's where we can sit down with EPA, and we're in that process now. We've already put a few pieces of it together and put together a long-term infrastructure plan. And I'm talking 30, 40, 50-year plan, and say, this is the road we're going to go down. And sure, along the way there might be some changes, but here's a long-term plan, and it's based on the affordability that we have as a community. It doesn't do us any good to bankrupt the community to try to fix a problem, because long-term, that hurts us. And we got to get them onto that book. They say that they're on in that thinking with us, so time will tell. But, you know, again, the term that we used here was a glimmer of hope, and I really think there is.
Okay. Councilor Palmieri?
I guess I should be pleased that there's a glimmer of hope. My question to you, Mr. Mayor, to the Commissioner or even the Manager, what else should we not be doing so that the infrastructure, which is, you know, so essential to growth in the city, what else should be done at this point? Because it's just it's bankrupting our the quality of life in the city of Worcester, I think, at this juncture.
Mr. Manager?
A couple of things, and I do want to just echo what the Commissioner said. We've had the full engagement of Congressman McGovern and both our Senators, Warren and Markey, in this. Chamber of Commerce has taken a strong lead on this as it relates to businesses. And we have worked really closely. We've had a number of meetings in your office, Mr. Chairman, with the regional administrator of EPA, trying to make our case and be very loud and persistent advocates for our own interests here. We also have been trying to work creatively around bringing additional resources into the infrastructure piece, and we've talked a lot about Route 20. Our legislators worked hard to get some earmarks in. It wasn't part of the capital plan for the last governor. However, the last governor, through the good works of Senator Moore and Representative Donahue, were able to get us $300,000 to do the permitting and design work for the Route 20 sewers. I've met twice with Secretary Beaton, and I know the commissioners followed up with his staff, and we are very hopeful that in this new governor's capital plan are going to be some of the resources that have been long sought after in terms of investments along Route 20 for sewers, which are not only beneficial in terms of the environment, they're beneficial in terms of economic development, but they add some newer infrastructure, allow us to cap out some other problem parts of the system that have caused us trouble. So we are trying to bring in additional resources that don't require just the ratepayers here in Worcester to pay for some of those infrastructure, but are looking for the Commonwealth as a whole to help support that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. And one or two more, and then I'll be done. I certainly want to acknowledge and recognize Sean Maha that's here today. He's generally always here, and as committed to our community with his with their entire workforce. The other question that I have is, I'd like to follow up on Councilor Economou's discussion on Green Hill and the restaurant. I'm hopeful that because it's such a diamond in the rough that we are able to focus more on that restaurant and all the hard work that they do, and I'm hopeful that there's a way in which we can not only literally drive more people up there, but that we'll see more. And I think one of the ways in which that could take place, and we've talked about this for maybe only 10 years, and I think that there's supposed to be the possibility at some point to see a driving range up there that I think will generate hundreds of thousands of dollars, because you have a captivated audience, and I know it's a challenge to realign the different holes up there, but I think that that's certainly an option as well, and I'm hopeful that we may be able to see that in the future.
Okay.
Thank
Councilor Lukes?
Mr. Chairman, to follow up on the golf course, which, frankly, throughout the years I've never been supportive of and never thought it was a legitimate city function to have a golf course in a premier park. The lease for the restaurant indicates that the maintenance of the restaurant is going to be borne by the tenant, correct?
Correct.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Who's going to oversee the adequacy of that maintenance?
Mr.
I mean,
Wilson?
we going to get health inspection services down there to issue complaints against them if they're not keeping up the restaurant and the building?
Yeah, absolutely. Any facility, including that one that has a food service license in Worcester, is inspected regularly by the health department. But in addition to that, our golf course staff of 2, by the way, they keep an eye on things, and if they think something's out of order, they make sure that gets corrected.
Okay, thank you. It was always a contradiction in terms to have a golf course on a public park and charge for the use of that golf course, because then the predictable response is, why don't we charge for the usage of all our public parks? Has that discussion come up lately? Because it did several years ago.
Well, I don't think it's come up lately, but it's certainly something that, maybe it's been a couple of years since the last time I've heard that discussed, but there's always been discussions on one way to improve our parks is to charge people for using them. One way to step up maintenance. The other side to that coin is, are we eliminating or kind of disqualifying people where the finances are very tight and it might not be affordable?
I agree. That discussion comes up during the summer more than other times when the beaches are not very well respected by members of the public that use them, and so we have to end up as a city cleaning up garbage and cleaning up other problems with the parks because of the intensive use they get for that short period of time. And that may be a legitimate purpose, even just to charge something nominal so that the members of the public who use it understand that it's a service that has value attached to it. Because I've seen some of the beaches, and it has been very disappointing in terms of the public's lack of attention and care to those beaches. So I'm not sure that I would be that adverse to a nominal fee. And in a city like Worcester, where we do have a needy population, that will generate a lot of negative discussion. On the other hand, the real negative aspect is seeing how those beaches are abused. So there's a dilemma there. On the water and sewer, is your budget predicated on the increase in water and sewer fees?
Mr. Mosi?
Yes, it is.
When was the last time we increased the fees, the usage of water for our out-of-town customers?
Mr. Mosi?
This proposed rate increase includes out-of-town customers.
Okay, how much is that increase?
It's the same. They pay more, but the increase is the same.
The increases, have we done that as a regular basis throughout the years?
Mr. Mosi?
Through the chair, we have not done it every year that we've recommended an in-city increase. For example, last year we recommended an in-city increase and didn't recommend an out-of-town increase. This year we're recommending an equal amount for the in-city rate on water and the out-of-town rate.
When was the last time we had an increase for the out-of-towners, forgetting this year's?
Fiscal 14. So the prior year to last year.
Okay. And we often skip years, as I recall.
Well, at one point our thinking was that we didn't want to get too aggressive because some of our out-of-town customers have options to go elsewhere. And they've even explored it. I'll give you an example. A couple of years back, the town of Paxton hired a consultant that we're familiar with. We talked to them to explore creating their own water supply. So there is some limit to what we can, charge and not scare people away. So we didn't want to, as it is now, the out-of-town rate is above the in-town rate. And for the out-of-town users, they have to take our rate and then add their costs on top of that rate. So the actual property owner pays a lot more. Because any cost they have to run their water system, their distribution system, their overhead, goes on top of what they pay us.
All right, but we're providing the water, so they are controlling those costs because they're purchasing it from Worcester.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you recall how much actual dollar amount we're getting from that increase from the out-of-towners?
Mr. Musi?
The rate increase this year comes out to like $10,000.
That's all?
That's all.
Okay, I think I need another remedy because as of this point in time, I am prepared to vote against the water and sewer increase rates. And given the fact that we're going to be continuing this discussion to next week, we're not taking a vote on Public Works?
Correct.
Or are we?
No, we're going to take a Public Works, but water and sewer, we keeping that till next week.
Those enterprise accounts are going for next week?
Yeah, this week. Unless you want to hold them.
I'd like to hold them.
All the enterprise accounts?
Yeah, water and sewer.
Water and sewer enterprise account?
And I'd like to also hold the golf course.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Musi, on the snow removal, on the deficit and the reimbursement from the federal government, where are we in the snow removal budget?
As the budget shows, we're about $2.5 million in deficit right now from this past season.
That's without the federal.
That's without the federal government. We're working right now. Assistant Commissioner Curtis updated me actually just today on about $1 million reimbursement, which would be like at 75%. So that would be around $750,000, and that's for that storm in January when we got the 30 inches. So if that comes, that'd reduce the $2.5 million down to about 1.7 or so.
Okay. What's our plans for next year? Do we have to put down next year's budget? Would have to be in this year's budget to 1.7. Where are we making that up?
Through the chair, to the chairman, that is at this time planned to be covered through reversions from departmental operations throughout the city.
Okay. So you're confident that's going to happen then? Or you're going to have to be?
Through the chair right now, I'm pretty confident that we can absorb that.
Okay. Okay, so the motion is to approve the Public Works except for H, which is Green Hill Golf Course, and K and L, which is sewer and water. All those motion to approve. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. So we'll hold the administrative and finance and city clerk's budget to next week, along with items 8A and B and the rest of the items. Okay. Motion is to adjourn, and we will convene in about 15-20 minutes to regular session. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered.